at that time, I actually started having Ancient Aliens night. I had a studio, and I would just open it up to the public, and we'd come in and watch Ancient Aliens episodes, and then I'd talk about it from a biblical worldview. That's really kind of how I got started. Are you going to hear anything about this in church? You're hearing it every day in the world. The world is hearing it every day. It's being pushed on them through television, cartoons, movies, everywhere you look. And now even into quote unquote mainstream science with Richard Dawkins and people like that saying that could be, ancient aliens seed of the world. If the church isn't talking about it, the church is going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Because something's coming. I believe it's all part of a great deception. And I begin to wonder if that's not part of the fulfillment of Daniel 2:43, where it says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they, who are they, shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, and they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. You have this mysterious they mixing themselves with humans. What's going on there? I don't know, but we see with all these alien abduction things, and more of them are happening. Dr. David Jacobs is a guy who started out as a skeptic, but just ended up counseling people who claimed to have been abducted, and they would tell him his story, and it's like, okay, you hear it once, okay, maybe, the dude's crazy. You hear it twice, well, that's an interesting coincidence. You keep hearing it over and over and over again, dozens of people from all around the world telling similar stories that have no interaction with each other, then you got to take notice of it and say, something's happening here. And when people are seeing UFO sightings more and more increasing every year, stuff happening, signs, wonders in the sky, it all just feeds into it. And I'm going, again, is it just a coincidence that books like this start popping up right about the same time? You got the Roswell thing happening in 47, but you also had that dude throwing a rock in a cave, and out pops the Book of Enoch and other texts that help to explain. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's there to help us to, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I say, well, great. What if we get educated? Is the stage being set for a return of the Nephilim? Well, I showed this diagram before. I believe that the Nephilim that we were dealing with at the time of the flood were created by humans through genetic manipulation, blending species and things of that nature. And I like to point out that the days of Jared versus the days of Noah, it says in the days of Noah, Yeshua said, the last days would be like. The days of Jared were marked by the mating of angels and humans, whereas the days of Noah is marked by the creation of animal-human hybridization that led to the corrupting of all flesh. So if I'm to take his words literally in Matthew 24:37, all we need to do is turn on the evening news. We're seeing it over and over again, the blending of species. We see transhumanism, I call it the doctrine of devils, basically setting itself up right in line with what you see in Genesis chapter 3, where the serpent says, you shall be as gods. You see in the promises of the serpent, three things: a promise of immortality, a promise that your eyes will be open, you have knowledge and understanding, and you shall be as gods. There's a guy by the name of Professor Nick Bostrom. He's one of the foremost spokespersons out there for transhumanism. Listen to what he says. Keep those three in mind. Listen to what Professor Nick Bostrom